Hey folks, this is Kelani. Patch 735 is just over the horizon and it's probably going to be our last major patch for the Legion expansion, so that means we might not see a great deal in the ways of new content until the next expansion starts ramping up properly with pre-patches and all that goodness. Thankfully, there's quite a bit coming with this patch to keep us busy over the next few months as work on Battle for Azeroth finishes up and we get a whole new adventure in World of Warcraft. So let's check out the 5 major features coming in patch 735 and what we'll have to do to tide us over during the typical content drought. To start with, this next patch focuses on the story after the Antorus raid. Hopefully you already know what's going on, but if you're out of the loop, we defeated the World Soul of Argus, stopped the Legion and imprisoned Sargeras, so effectively the Burning Legion is done for now. Don't expect to see any demons romping around anytime soon, not until Sargeras gets free, or we decide to free him, or however he ends up coming back into the story, because chances are we haven't seen the last of him just yet, but I digress. We succeeded. The only problem is Sargeras managed to impale his sword into Silithus before we actually imprisoned him. One last act of treachery, and we're not too sure how bad it is. What we do know is an awesome new substance has started sprouting out of the ground down in Silithus, and the goblins have already started to look into the potential properties of this stuff called azurite. As it happens, it's quite potent, which makes it very desirable. So desirable that it seems like the Horde and Alliance will both want a good chunk of it, and it looks like tension between the two factions is going to rise and ultimately lead to the burning of Teldrassil and the Alliance marching on the Undercity. This new resource is the reason we're back to fighting amongst ourselves, so it better be worth all the trouble. Patch 735 will walk us through the changes in the world and explain how the events of Legion lead into the start of the new Battle for Azeroth expansion, where we'll explore the seas to find new allies and try to heal this massive wound in Silithus as best we can. Be sure to run through all of the quests available down in Silithus when the patch goes live, and keep an eye out for new quests later down the line. The story isn't going to just be told through quests though. Silithus is one heck of a hotspot for azurite, so the Horde and the Alliance will definitely be fighting over the sands of Silithus once again, but instead of it being open world like in the past, this time we get a new battleground which seems to play out very much like Arathi Basin, where we collect resources. In this battleground, the resources we're collecting is azurite, and the first team to collect 1500 azurite is the winner. Both factions start up in the air aboard their own airships, which is pretty baller. But what's even cooler is that when you jump off, you have the ability to maneuver yourself a little so you can drop down exactly where you want to. Kind of reminds me of the Battle Royale games that have been popping up here, there and everywhere over the last few years. The battleground is quite spread out and your objective is to collect the azurite before the opposing faction. Green beams will appear which mark a location that's going to erupt with azurite very soon, so fight over the objectives to make sure your team is ready to mine that azurite as soon as it pops up. It looks like a beautiful battleground which should hopefully be a lot of fun as well. It's interesting that we're getting a battleground which actually has reason behind it. We're fighting over the azurite right here, and oh hey, we're actually fighting instead of it just being quests back and forth. I can't really think of any other battleground which has significant meaning behind why we're fighting in that specific location that is fully addressed in-game with other types of content. More than anything, this battleground gets me super hyped for the new Island Expeditions feature in Battle for Azeroth, because it seems like it will be quite similar in terms of gameplay. Race to the azurite and kill each other to claim it as your prize. Fun stuff. Another new addition coming with patch 735 is another Timewalking Raid. The first raid to be added to Timewalking was the Black Temple, and it seems we're following a pattern of most popular raids as opposed to end of expansion raids, as we'll be able to romp through Ulduar once again. When you think of Timewalking Wrath of the Lich King raids, I bet quite a few people would have expected Icecrown Citadel to be brought back, but nope, we're going to be freeing the Titan Keepers of Ulduar from the treacherous grasp of Yogg-Saron, and eventually diving deep into the prison of the Old God to stop the corruption spreading throughout Northrend. Now, because this is Timewalking we're talking about, things won't be as easy as you one-shotting your way through the normal version of Ulduar. I'm really excited for this Timewalking raid because the Black Temple kind of fell short, but that's not because it didn't work as a Timewalking raid or that Timewalking raids are a bad idea in general, but the Burning Crusade content is very old at this point. Raid and encounter design has come a long way, and even though it's just one expansion on, Ulduar should hold up way better in terms of mechanics and design when compared to the Black Temple. Most of the boss fights have quite a few mechanics you'll have to learn to deal with instead of just one or two which can be largely ignored. I'm really excited to see how things will be balanced as well. I'm curious how well players will do, because some of Ulduar was pretty difficult, especially when you start introducing the hard modes of each encounter. I can just see a raid of unaware individuals running into Freya's garden and pulling her before dealing with the Guardians. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Now, potentially the largest feature coming with patch 735 is an update to how leveling works. Everything is going to scale. This is a huge change for the World of Warcraft when you consider how long some of the content has gone without being touched. The Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King areas are severely outdated at this point, but adding in world scaling throughout the leveling experience might just be enough to keep things interesting, especially for any new players joining the game. I wouldn't be surprised if people were turned off from WoW while leveling simply because not a great deal of it makes sense anymore. If you didn't already know where to go when you reached certain levels or what a green or grey quest meant, you might get a little annoyed that you've been questing in the same area for quite a while and you don't seem to be getting very far. The new leveling experience ensures you're always rewarded for quests you complete in the current expansion you're playing and allows you to pick and choose where you want to quest. If you're having a good time running through some of the human areas and don't want to move on until you've completed the storylines, now you won't get penalised at all for that decision. You're also guided to new leveling areas via the quest boards, which have been added to more quest hubs, so you don't have to go far to find out where you can set out on your next adventure. There's also been some consolidation of expansion zones, so you can choose to quest in Outland or Northrend from level 60 to 80, and you can choose between Cataclysm zones or Mists of Pandaria zones for 80 to 90. Opening the world up like this creates an amazing amount of potential for an otherwise outdated leveling process. There have been quite a few tweaks to both the power levels of characters and monsters while leveling up. It's going to take a little more effort to take out almost any type of monster in almost every situation while leveling, so things should feel a little meatier and more interesting as opposed to just running around and one-shotting every monster in sight by flicking a bugger their way. It's definitely going to be a different World of Warcraft after these changes come through. Another amazing feature, which is kind of coming with patch 735 and is tied to the new leveling, is the addition of allied races. Allied races are new playable races which require a little more effort to unlock. Eventually we'll be able to play the Lightforged Draenei, the Void Elves, the High Mountain Tauren, the Nightborn, the Zandalari Trolls, and the Dark Iron Dwarves. Each new race has a few requirements to unlock them, which include a scenario explaining how that specific race ends up joining the Horde or the Alliance. This one's a little bit weird, because everything we would ever need to play 4 out of the 6 new allied races is being added in with patch 735. The new embassy locations in both Orgrimmar and Stormwind are being added with the patch, the appropriate NPCs are in position ready to give us the quests to unlock the allied races, and all of the dialogue as well as the scenarios and quests themselves are being introduced with this patch. So literally the only thing missing is a hidden flag which tells the servers they can offer up the quests to players. That hidden flag is most likely a Battle for Azeroth pre-purchase requirement. The Lightforged Draenei, Void Elves, High Mountain Tauren and Nightborn will all most likely be available for play during patch 735, just not right at the start. As soon as the pre-purchase is available for Battle for Azeroth, all of this content, which will be downloaded and patched into the client with patch 735, will become active and available for play. So I guess the big question is, when will that be? We might actually be closer than you think. If you pre-purchased Legion, you were able to play Demon Hunters before the expansion went live, but Demon Hunters started at level 98, so there wasn't really that much to do before you were caught up at the current max of level 100. Allied races start at level 20, so we'll need quite a bit more time before they're ready to explore the new expansion's content. The 4 allied races that should be available to play are also tied more closely to Legion than to Battle for Azeroth. These are the races that we've befriended and helped through our adventures in the Broken Isles and on Argus. The 2 allied races which we won't be getting any data for are the Zandalari Trolls and the Dark Iron Dwarves, both of which have their stories explored on the new continents in Battle for Azeroth, so it makes sense to save those 2 for later and give us the races we already know everything about before the expansion launches. I would assume the pre-purchase will be early enough to give us the time needed to both unlock the allied races and get a race of our choice up to max level, so we can play our preferred race when the expansion launches. We don't have any solid information to go on, but I would be incredibly surprised if the pre-purchase for Battle for Azeroth wasn't made available within the next couple of months, especially when they have everything required to release the allied races coming with patch 735. There's no reason to wait much longer. So that's it for this video. Are you most excited about the new Battleground or exploring the story after Legion? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.